you heard me in the corner, I said, make her cry. And I realized I should have heckled that after I'm done with you, right? So that you don't make me cry later. Because just as soon as he said talk show, I thought Oprah. So, one of the things I want to ask you is a little quiz. 5 frogs sitting on a log. One decides to jump off. How many frogs sitting on a log? 5. Who said 5? Why? Deciding to jump is not the same thing as jumping. Thank you. And of course, it's Peter Drucker's daughter. There you go. Who answers that. It's counterintuitive, and I want to start with that because we can sit at a conference like this and hear so many ideas and so much wisdom, both from colleagues as well as all the wisdom from the stage. And it can be so easy to go back to our daily work and completely ignore everything we just learned. And so I'm going to actually share with you not so much an imparting of wisdom of what I learned as much as my own notes to myself, and if that's helpful at all to you. I'll share 3 moments of the conference that really struck me. One were, and they're linked, obviously. One was when Addie asked Clay, when Clay was talking about how capital should not be hoarded anymore, it should flow. And he did an amazing follow-up question, which I think is really an opportune moment at a conference like this. And he said, well, where should it go? And he said, people. And I was especially struck because I've never heard Clay say that before, so maybe it was just my first time at it, but I was like, wow. Okay, now show me an investment strategy on people, and who would start doing that, and what would it unleash? And then I started just reflecting about why don't people make that investment, and I think it's because we don't know the ROI. We don't understand what those metrics are, and I started thinking about the metrics I've heard at this conference. A couple were that 67%, I think it was Roger Martin, said 67% of the labor force, I think you were referencing a US number, is being asked to leave their brain at the door. There was another statistic that was that 5% of any workforce knows the strategy of the firm. And so I was struck by how much we're measuring passive work. And I started to question my mind about if we were going to build a new building, we would start with scaffolding that allowed a new set of metrics. Like we would say, this is how we're going to architect this new building. And I don't think we understand the metrics of that new building. And so that's actually the question I have for myself. And that's the note I wrote to myself. What's the metrics of this new world that allows us to understand when we invest in people and talent that we unlock the power of those people? When we have that, we will now be able to make a management and leadership argument to go forward. So mostly I share that in case somebody, by the way, has any wisdom and knowledge for me, please inform me, because I hope that in sharing you can share back. And then, but I really want you to, before you leave, when you're at the airport or whatever, like write the note to yourself, what will you actually do as a result, and choose at least one thing, because I found it's much better to jump. Oh gosh.
The chair.
The chair. If he makes me cry, he wins like $5 or something.
No, it's
right?
ridiculous. So what's the saddest thing that's ever happened to you? Like, really sad in your life. No, all right, I'm going to put you on the spot, because I'm sure you've thought about this before, this question of what the new metrics are. And you were just asking for help, and that's reasonable. But, I'm sure you've thought a little bit about what they might be.
So I think there's 2 things. One is I'm absolutely convinced we're only tracking engagement, which is a stupid, lame thing. We're not actually capturing whether or not someone's full potential is brought to bear. And then I was sitting there going, okay, well then how do you measure capacity? And I actually don't know the answer to the question, but I'm super interested in the question of how do you measure capacity. And I have some inkling of it when I talk about onlyness, right? So, I mean, I'm clearly chasing that question already in a certain way, but it wasn't until I heard the commentary in the room that I thought, it's the scaffolding of the new building, that I was like, okay, we need to get much clearer about it. I've sort of been dismissing the metric, like it'll become evident after we build the building, and I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's key to the new building.
And it doesn't exist in Silicon Valley, say, kind of new economy companies?
You know what I think we're actually doing largely in Silicon Valley, and I come from there, so I know I'm going to be a little bit critical of my hometown kind of thing. I think we're remodeling the house. We're remodeling the house and trying to do as little as possible to change the house. And there's a whole bunch of people standing outside that house that do not benefit from the prosperity of the economy. And I think we might need to build a whole new house.
Sounds good. Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Nilofer Merchant. Thank you.